A little over a month ago, I reviewed the Creality Ender 3 V2, and overall I said that it was a really nice printer and I could definitely see the appeal for somebody that's had their eyes set on, say, an Ender 3 or an Ender 3 Pro, but didn't want to have to go through upgrading it to a 32-bit board themselves. Maybe they just didn't feel like doing it or they didn't feel comfortable doing it. Well, with the Ender 3 V2, it comes standard with Marlin 2.0 and the 32-bit board. I did say that there was two things I wasn't crazy about with the Ender 3 V2, with one being the noisy fans, and two, which was the biggest one to me, was with the new screen that they implemented. The screen was supposed to be an upgrade, but it was a rectangular shape and it was taller versus wider, and it made it really difficult to see the names of your files when you were trying to print. So if you had different versions of a file, but the first, word or so was the same, there was no way to scroll down and have it scroll across. You could only see the very beginning of your file. And it might seem like a small detail, but to me it was definitely an annoyance and something that I didn't like. And I said that it would be really cool if Creality went ahead and released just some kind of a firmware patch where all they needed to do was make it where the text would scroll if you highlighted a certain file. Well, Creality doesn't seem to have implemented anything as far as I know, but in the comments of that video, a lot of people told me to check out something called the Extensible UI by someone named Jyers. This is a user-created upgrade for your Ender 3 V2's firmware, and not only did they implement the scrolling text that I said I'd love to see, but there's also a ton of other upgrades that were included with this, and it really adds a lot of features and functionality to the LCD screen and the menu system that we're just missing with the Ender 3 V2. So in today's video, we'll go over some of those features and I will show you just how simple it is to actually upgrade your Ender 3 V2 to the Extensible UI. So without further ado, let's get right into today's video. All the information is going to be outlined in the GitHub, which I will place in the links of this video. The Extensible UI has a wiki page that also covers most of the included features with this firmware upgrade. Some of those things include a manual bed leveling menu, a Z-offset menu, a preheat menu with up to 5 different profiles, options for changing filament, the ability to set your BL Touch probe offset from the LCD screen if you, of course, do decide to upgrade to an automatic bed leveling, and lastly, manual mesh leveling. The manual mesh leveling will allow you to create a mesh similar to what a BL Touch will do, but manually using the nozzle on the printer. The firmware is also actively being developed with new features, and at the time of recording this, an update was just released 3 hours prior. Jyers has put together a ton of pre-configured update files, making it very plug and play to upgrade to this firmware. There are currently 28 different pre-compiled versions available. The main thing you'll need to check is which board version your printer came with, 4.2.2 or 4.2.7. The easiest way to find this out is to open your printer and read it off of the controller board. In my case, my Ender 3 V2 came with 4.2.2, and I opted for the version called Manual Mesh 3x3. If you have a stock Ender 3 V2, you will likely want to go with either the manual mesh or the UBL no probe version. Jyers did a great job of outlining the difference between these two in the GitHub as well, so if you're unsure on which one you want, I can link to that as well in the description. I do feel that most will be more than content with the precompiled firmware, but I did also want to note that if you do want to customize the firmware, the source code is provided as well. Upgrading your Ender 3 V2 with this firmware could not be easier compared to the original Ender 3 that had required flashing of a bootloader and using the Arduino IDE to update like I showed in a video a couple years back. Once you download the firmware bin file, you'll need to plug in your printer's microSD card into your computer and drag that bin file to the root of your microSD card. Next, make sure that your printer is off, plug the microSD card into the port, and flip the power back on. The printer will be a little bit slower to boot, but within around 30 seconds, you should be greeted with the home screen for your Ender 3 V2, although it may be looking a bit new and improved. For me, the biggest upgrade really is the scrolling text for the File Explorer, as that was a specific complaint that I had in my review. However, there are a ton of other cool features in this firmware, like the ones previously mentioned, as well as some new ones, like a print odometer, as well as the ability to completely tweak the menu colors to your liking. Huge thank you to Jyers for releasing this, as I really do think it increases the value and user experience of the Ender 3 V2. I'm looking forward to seeing what additional features are added, and I will be using this firmware when I install the BL Touch in a few weeks. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video and that your Ender 3 v2 is now updated to this firmware. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite current feature is for this firmware. And if you have any ideas for future updates or features that you'd like to see, also paste those down below. You never know if Jyers is actually going to see this video, maybe see some of those comments, and potentially consider adding those to a future build of this firmware, because it does seem like it is actively developed. On that note, don't forget to like and subscribe for more great videos. We make a video every single week, so there's always fresh content coming your way. And if you did want to support the channel furthermore, I'll place links down below in the description over to my Patreon, where there are some really awesome rewards. A huge thank you to all of my current Patreon supporters. I really appreciate each and every one of you, and you really allow me to spend more time doing what I love, which is making content each and every week for you all to enjoy. On that note, this has been Daniel from ModBot, and I look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Peace, guys.